We were just discussing how we think that this Carinavi actually is not as strong as this Betahona. Let's go ahead and finish off here real quick with this Catamarca. And let's go back to that Betahona from here. Okay, that's right. Okay, so that Catamarca is quite large, isn't it? It's easily the biggest coffee on the table. Go back to that Betahona, I think it is a step down. So we need to kind of reverse these two. But you were asking a little earlier about, you felt that was a similar occurrence happened back here. Let's go back to the coffees in question.
When you mentioned the step down, I noticed that between the Atitlan and the San Francisco, it felt like there was a change, certainly in terms of the pop in my mouth.
Yeah, and it seemed like the Atitlan was a little stronger than the San Francisco. Let's start with the Kenya. Whoops, I didn't mean to say that. I mean the AA plus. Slipped out of my head. Start with that AA plus. Doesn't really matter at this point. And then let's do the Atitlan. And then the Mexico. And I think especially, now do that Mexico.
This one?
Yeah. Okay, there's a difference between viscosity and where you're tasting. Okay, so I would posit that it is in fact greater body. But with this Atitlan, and especially with this Kenya, you're tasting those on your side of your mouth. And the taste of this coffee is a soft, neutral coffee. So it almost gives, this coffee gives the impression initially that there's more there. But go back to it and notice how long that lingering occurs. Especially, if you were to just kind of think of it as solution and water. And then go back to that Mexico again. It almost feels like there's more coffee per water, right? I don't know how to express it. You see how there's a thickness to it. That's body versus taste. It's a very easy thing to confuse the two, right? Because you're kind of with your taste buds, it seems wider. But we're talking about a different attribute now. We're talking about this viscosity, this thickness that the coffee has that makes up the body of it, right? So especially when we go to something real big, like this Catamarca, I think will really drive the point home of this really just bigness to it. And it's also a softer, this is a soft, sweet coffee, but just more coffee there. You see where I'm getting at? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Schley, you were asking about going back and forth on.
You were trying to bring them through body, and you started bringing them up sequentially.
Right.
Wouldn't it make more sense to go from? I think when I did initial cupping with me, you took me from the Peru to the Ethiopia.
Back and forth. I think. Actually, what I did was at the end, I went around. This has been a kind of a standard procedure. I would start Ethiopia again and just start slowly going on, and I will wait 3 or 4 coffees in before I start saying, now start paying attention to this, right? Because they're going to like, I taste that, I taste that. Wait a second, something's going on, right? Because I'm trying to now shift gears from taste and aroma into body. And like I think I've said before, I think body is the most difficult one to talk about. Because you really have to kind of just change. I know it's like different connections.
So essentially, what you want them to realize something different is happening.
Exactly.
And it's not one of the things you've discussed before.
Right. And especially like you're saying, Terry, where you're kind of going like, well, yeah, but then I tasted this, and then and that's a perfect lead-in because we can again, if you recall, I said this early in the class. So I said sometimes you'll think a winey coffee is bigger than a soft coffee, and we can kind of revisit that, come back again. And I think that's helpful because, like I said, we're subtly changing our attention to how we're tasting. And that's, again, what this whole exercise is about, is getting you tuned in to what am I experiencing on my tongue. Well, it's like that, but it's a little different.
So the lingering viscosity is the body?
Is that thickness. Yeah, that thickness. And it's not necessarily a lingering, it's more of just an impression of strength.
Yeah.
A strength impression. As opposed to, say, when we got up to that, where's that Caranavi? That Caranavi, we had that long lingering, but when you compare it to the Berahona, we just had more coffee. So go ahead and try these two again. Try because we're not talking about lingering like that liqueuring effect. It's more of this sense impression of strength, how much coffee is in it, as if you've got a stronger cup of coffee, right? That idea of strength. So go ahead and try those two again. Your slurps have not improved. It's very distressing.
I'm the world's worst slurper.
Yeah, well, yeah. We're not at home anymore. Make noise. Okay, so you see where I'm kind of going with that? That between the two, that Berahona just has this lasting impression of strength, where the Caranavi had that sense of lingering liqueur-like quality. Very, very different. Okay. So, let's talk about how our impressions of these coffees have now changed from the first time we went around. Remember the first time we went around? Just coffee, 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 coffee. Oh, I think I was going to coffee, coffee. And now, how different each one of these are almost their own individual personality, right? Do you have senses of coffees that spoke to you more than another? What ones do you feel like a favorite toward?
Aditlan for me.
Aditlan? Why?
Again, it's the language thing. Probably once I learn the language, I would be able to tell you exactly
what it was. There was a peppery quality to it.
It felt big and it felt smooth to me. It was just enjoyable.
Okay.
The others just felt more distinctive.
Interesting. And this is interesting because normally this is one of those coffees we're really careful about selling because of that, because it's so distinctive. You have to be careful. You have to be careful about selling this coffee to an average person going home and putting cream and sugar in it. This is not a coffee that's going to like cream and sugar, right? That winey pepperiness, cream, sugar, doesn't work well together, right? Nor would I say this Karnataka. I think this Karnataka and the Aditlan share a lot of characteristics, similarity of characteristics to it. Although this one is much more of a straightforward, winey, woody characteristic, where this one had that pepper-like quality to it. But they both remind me of wines. And again, cream and sugar with your wine just doesn't seem to work too well. I think now with similarly in some regards with this AA+, but because this one's more subtle, it's more forgiving.